Hi, I'm Ksenia, and thanks so much for joining me for this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with what's happening in the astral skies for this week. Thanks for joining me. Now, though, I've got a few announcements that I need to make before we get stuck into the astral weather. Firstly, I am just wanting to let everybody know that I am shutting down my readings for the time being. It's not a permanent fixture, but I'm going to be closing off my readings as I am completely overwhelmed with work at the moment and booked out for up to 3 months, maybe more, in advance. And as such, I've reached a point where I'm going to have to close my books. So I just want to let everybody know that. That includes my personal work, but also on Lada as well. Now, if you would like to know when I'm going to be available again for readings, then make sure you subscribe, not just to YouTube channel, because that's obviously a good thing to do, but also to my email list. And then I only send out maybe 4 emails a year at most. So you will receive notification through that email service that my books are reopening. You can go to my webpage, www.guidingstarrastrology.com, and make sure you sign up for my email there. Now, this is also going to be rather a short video because I've been unwell, and that in itself is a story. I'm still quite under the weather, but it is quite a story, and no coincidences whatsoever. We get so busy as astrologers looking at everybody else's charts that often we neglect to pay attention to what's happening in our own. And certainly that was the case for me last week with the eclipse falling exactly square to my first house of the body and my Jupiter placement. And Jupiter rules my first house. I'm Pisces rising. So my first house lord and my first house were getting an activation by a square from the eclipse. Not only that, Mars was crossing that point in the sky as well, and Mars rules fevers, aches. I'm just glad that there was, touch wood, no accidents that occurred, because Mars rules accidents as well. But my rising sign, my first house lord, ruling my body and my body's health and the way it presents to the world, squared by the eclipse, conjunct with Mars, fevers and aches, and also Neptune not too far away from that area as well. Tiredness, Neptune rules tiredness. Well, these were all being activated, so no surprises that I should get sick. But you'll know that last week in my video, I shared the remedies for coping best with what the eclipse brings you. And so for me, Virgo rules sweats. Not very nice, bit yucky there. Sorry to sort of dump that on you, but yes, the sweating is the body's way of cooling oneself down when we're ill and we have a fever. So yes, Virgo ruling sweats, but also my 7th house was part of my remedy. And by reaching out to other people in my life when I was sick, I was able to obviously remedy the impacts of what I was going through and I'm still going through. But I reached out, for example, to my partner who doesn't live with me and or in the same city as me for that matter. And he, just speaking to him actually shifted the energy. Because as I said in the previous video, you need to look at the remedies for how to cope with whatever the eclipse brings you, and partnership is one of my remedies. And by speaking to my partner, the energy shifted almost immediately, and I turned the corner. I'm still, clawing my way back up, but obviously I'm well enough to be sitting up and doing this week's weather report for you all now. And I got my makeup on and all that business. So things really changed almost from the moment I spoke to him. I was able to sit up. I was able to, eat some food. I was able to start, read a bit of a book or something and actually do some stuff instead of just sleeping and shivering in bed. So it was, it took me a couple of days to reach out and connect. But silly me. But when I did, the benefits were there. So that was great. And it's funny, you know, in chatting with him over the last couple of days, I've been able to even put together some new business partnership approaches in place that are going to protect me from being overworked and run down in the future. So I can see how beautifully this played out as a remedy for me. I'm still healing, but it was a remedy for me, and it's going to help me with my future as well. Thank you, Eclipse, for triggering all this to happen and causing me to make some necessary changes in my life through collaboration and through partnership in general, business-wise, for me in the future. So sometimes it takes an eclipse to get us where we're meant to be. But what about you? How did the eclipse affect you, or how is it still affecting you? We know how it's affected the masses. We've seen that playing out all over the world now. Quite an exciting time. We'll talk about that in brief in a minute. But you personally, how did the eclipse affect you? Did those remedies that I offered in last week's video help and support you? And in what ways did they work for you? Leave some comments. Let's encourage one another with our insights and what we observe happening to us astrologically. So please feel free to comment about how it affected you in the comment section below. So we're now in one of two eclipse gateway periods. What's an eclipse gateway period? Well, we're having two in the middle of 2020. Ordinarily, we might usually just have one. It is the season of time, usually 2 weeks, between one eclipse to another. It's known as the gateway period. Now, because we're having 3 eclipses in the middle of this year, we're going to have 2 gateway periods. So we're in the first gateway period. There was an eclipse last week. We've got some breathing space this week, so to speak. And then there's an eclipse next week as well, on the 21st of May. And I'll talk about that in next week's video. So a gateway period is a transition phase. And we're in the lunar to solar transition phase at the moment. So it's a transition phase where we're going to sort of be incorporating 2 different energies. We're incorporating now the lunar energy, the lunar eclipse energy, which is all about what we feel emotionally, and we're transitioning into the solar eclipse phase, which is all about what is happening externally, and we can see that's already going on. The lunar phase is about final endings, the lunar eclipse transitioning from ending something, concluding something in our personal lives, and moving into some new beginnings that will come with the new eclipse that's occurring on the 21st. We're moving from one state of consciousness to another state of consciousness, essentially, when we go through any gateway period. So with a gateway period such as this, we can feel very tired right now, so don't be surprised if you're extra sleepy and need to go to bed earlier or want to have a bit of a sleep in the morning. But this tiredness means, we need to be kind to ourselves. We also perhaps need to take time to reflect. Always a good thing to do at any time of year, but in the gateway period between eclipses, it is also very, very highlighted. We need to take time to reflect, to release what we need to shed. I've been releasing a lot of toxins from my body, and that needs to go. That purification needs to happen. So what are you releasing? Reflect on what needs to go. Make space now for change in this gateway period. It's time. Now, we can become quite aware during the gateway period of our actions and behaviors and attitudes that are not supportive. We see people waking up all over the world right now, realizing how toxic their actions and their thought patterns have been. Maybe around race relations, maybe around how people treat women, maybe around anything, maybe relationship toxic attitudes and behaviors. Like, we're waking up during the transition phase to see where our toxic behaviors have led us to. So that is actually all part of the gateway phase, the eclipse gateway. Excuse me. this time for being aware and releasing. Now we're going to talk, as I said, more about the solar eclipse and what it will be bringing in next week's video. So hang in there for that, and I'll have lots to share about what that solar eclipse will be bringing us. But there's two big astrological events this week, and they're both happening on the 13th of June. This is going to be quite a key day, and look, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see some key outfalling of the eclipse that has just occurred coming into play on the 13th of June. The first event is that Venus, where is she? She's over here. Venus, going retrograde in Gemini at the moment, becomes visible. Now we're all sincerely hoping she does become visible, because if she's a few days late, maybe 2 or 3 days late, it's no big deal. But if she is a week late, if she's 2 weeks late from becoming visible in the sky as the morning star, then we know that the things represented by Venus in the world are in trouble. Women, money, love. So all the things Venus rules, beauty, art, culture, we need to be praying right now. And I've said this a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, but it's just so important that Venus becomes visible on the 13th, and we need to be lifting the vibrational energy to usher in this to happen. This is the event, in my humble opinion, that could really differentiate the direction that 2020 goes. We're still going to have upheavals. We're still going to have, the shit happening, excuse my language. But whether it happens for the greater good and the benevolence of the world is quite dependent on Venus becoming visible when she's due to. So Venus is the minor benefic planet. She gives love, as I said, beauty, artistry. She is the planet of money and prosperity. So we need her. We need her on planet Earth in so many ways right now to uphold, her energy is needed to uphold the world as we go through this really difficult birthing year into a new beginning. So on the 13th, get out there under the sky in the morning. That's the 13th Australian time too, I might add as well. Check out through your local app, planetwatcher.com or astro.com or something, to see exactly when she's going to be becoming visible for you. But at most places around the world, it will be on the morning of the 13th. Get out there under the sky, sit under the early morning sky before the sun has risen, and see if she becomes apparent just before dawn. Now, I keep getting dreams, and these have been happening for the last week, and they're horrific dreams about women and about children and their exploitation and their abuse, and it's weighing very heavily on me as a Pisces. I'm very sensitized to dream life, and with Neptune moving through Pisces right now, it's extra sensitive, and with Mars conjunct Neptune right now, dream life, especially if you're Piscean, dream life is going to be very maybe quite aggressive, maybe quite violent. So just be aware of that. In fact, that can be the case for everybody, not just Piscean people, because for everyone, Neptune, the planet of dreams, is conjuncting with Mars, the planet of violence. So we might all be getting violent dreams right now. And I just want to say that we can't ignore this. Our dreams are messages from the divine, messages from the higher entities that watch over Earth, messages from the planets, if you will. Pay attention to your dreams. So and I've had a lot of people commenting on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel about, I've had that dream too. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I've been having similar kinds of dreams. When there's so many people experiencing this, we've got to give it some attention. We've got to pay it some heed. So again, another reason to get out there in the morning of the 13th. Pray to Venus, pray for Venus, whatever you want to, pray to God, pray to Jesus. It doesn't matter, but just lift your vibrational energy to the higher realms and seek Venus energy. Especially at this time when we're getting this heaviness around women, which is ruled by Venus in our dreams and our dream life. Now, Venus is retrograde right now, and she's also in her Lucifer morning star phase. I'm not going to spend too much time explaining the Lucifer morning star phase, but it is, and I did mention this again in my last week's video, it is quite the more powerful, defiant energy of femininity, Venus, Lucifer morning star, than opposed to the evening star Venus personality type. When Venus is retrograding in her Lucifer morning star phase, it causes us all to shift our feelings and our emotions and our values. What are we seeing? Since Venus was Cazimi with the sun last week, what have we seen occurring in the world? A shifting in values, a shifting in our feelings about things and our emotions about things. This is Venus, Lucifer, morning star, and it needs to happen. It's long overdue, Let me share a quote with you by a brilliant astrologer, M. Maya, and he writes, "It is a time when Venus is in Lucifer phase, morning star phase, retrograde. It is a time when the future attempts to free itself from the past, clearing the way for the development of a new set of values and a new emotional sense." This needs to happen. But attempts to fight or rebel against the past and its values and morality can bind us to the very things from which we seek to free ourselves. So we want freedom, we want liberty, but looting and rioting, is that going to bring us that? No, it's not. That doesn't bring freedom, that brings more harshness and crackdowns from authority figures, which is the exact opposite of what we're actually wanting here. So we have to navigate this Venus Lucifer morning star phase with a great deal of wisdom, with a great deal of honoring. And that's another reason why I would encourage you to get out under the Venus morning star energy on the 13th and lift your prayers, lift your meditations, do a yoga practice, whatever your spiritual practice is. Do it before the energy of Venus. Now, because I keep getting these dreams, and so many of you have shared that you're getting these dreams as well at this time, because Lucifer retrograde morning star in a natal chart represents women who will lead, in a woman's chart, who will lead pioneering and possibly very difficult lives. We need to pray more than ever for women, as I've said, particularly those who are pioneering the way for us, and for anyone who is taking a pioneering step towards the emergence of something new. We need to pray that the future can clear itself now of the past fully and purely under this energy. Now, also on June the 13th, we've got a big event happening, which is the conjunction of the Moon, Mars, and Neptune happening down here in the sign of Pisces at 20 degrees of Pisces. So if you've got something around 20 degrees of Pisces, you may very well feel this energy quite strongly. But for the rest of us, this energy will still be somewhat potent. We might need to be careful again of a resurgence of illness, the COVID perhaps, or other illnesses around the world, because we've got a combo of 3 planets that are a bit iffy when it comes to illnesses. Mars rules fevers, Neptune rules the flu, the Moon is colds. Actually, the Moon is one of the planets that refers to colds. Saturn is the other planet. So we might see a bit more of a fallout of that kind of thing occurring. Maybe the second wave might begin. Who knows? We're taking educated guesses here, but this point, especially as the moon moves across 15 degrees of Pisces in the lead up to conjuncting with these guys on the 13th. That is the point that was squared by the eclipse, Mars squaring the eclipse, so we might get a reactivation when the moon crosses that point of what the eclipse stood for as well. So look, we could see a number of things play out on the 13th because of that. One thing is certain, we will all feel highly sensitized, so there is a very big need to stay grounded at this time. Now, Pisces isn't renowned for its ability to be grounded, so we're going to have to put active efforts into doing this. In Australia, it's actually literally hard to walk barefoot on the ground at the moment because it's winter, and certainly where I live, it's very frosty in the mornings and you wouldn't go out there in your bare feet for anything. But one of the best ways to ground yourself is to get out in nature somehow. That might involve sitting in the sunshine on your back porch. It might be going for a walk in nature. It might be, connecting it might be getting out there and pulling a few weeds out of the garden, or raking up some fallen leaves, or just being in close proximity to Mother Earth. So that is a great way to ground yourself now, by immersing yourself in nature at this time. Another good reason to get under the stars in the morning, because of course it's not part of Gaia, Mother Earth, but it is part of the natural world, and being present in it. One of the good things about this combination though, particularly Mars-Neptune energy, is that our love connections might be more euphoric now, particularly our desire nature and our sexual nature. So our sex lives can actually go to the higher states under this conjunction. We can have euphoric, as I said, sex that just takes us to another plane, that feels spiritual, that feels tantric, that is invigorated from beyond what we know in the earthly plane. So if you have the opportunity to enjoy that, I'd encourage you to on the 13th, because the sexual interactions we have on that day will be blessed by Mars connecting with Neptune. We can also feel more motivated about undertaking some compassionate work in the world right now. And that's obviously one of the higher levels of this energy, the higher vibrational level that we can challenge. Oh, my head is so thick and slow. I'm so sorry, everybody. But any type of compassionate endeavors we will feel enthused about, driven to be active in, or take some action around right now. So Mars can be very helpful when we're looking at involving ourselves with those kind of compassionate Neptunian activities. Might also have to do with mothers as well, because the moon represents motherhood. So we might feel compassion and be energized to behaving more compassionately towards mother energy in the world, the maternal line, or single mothers, or mothers who are suffering and doing it hard in the world, or having some compassionate action regarding mothers who have lost their children or something. So look for ways that you can love and serve and support mothers, or the feminine, or just general compassionate work in the world around this time. What we do need to be very careful of is violent, rageful spiritual attacks that can occur under this energy from spiritual vampires and energy vampires. Because what is Neptune is the spiritual side of us, the messages from the divine, from the higher entities. And here it's connecting with Mars, the planet of war. Well, there's a number of ways that could play out. Maybe the higher entities go to war on our behalf, and we can't see that happening in the sort of the astral realm, but maybe that's what goes on. Maybe we get, like as I said, attacked by spiritual entities that are, you know, rageful and vengeful, or maybe there's somebody who is sort of possessed by some sort of, you know, we all know the paranoid YouTube haters and the people without a lot of emotional processing going on, that seem to almost be overridden by other beings of a negative sort. Neptune conjunct Mars can represent those types of attacks in our life. Now, as astrologers, certainly in the network of astrologers I'm part of, we're aware of who the energy vampires are, but in our personal lives, it might come from someplace completely unexpected. Somebody you didn't see coming who becomes sort of an energy vampire in your life. Mars is, pardon me, sudden action, you know, impulsive action. And so somebody might lash out who you least expected would ever lash out and suck and drain your energy, or be a spiritual vampire in your life. And it could be just a fleeting phase that they go through. So allow an element of forgiveness, realizing that the astrological energy is such that might just present, and that in time things will settle down again, as these two planets will not make a conjunction for quite some time again. Possibly, I think it's 2 years. I haven't looked it up to see whether they're going to conjunct under the retrograde motion that's coming up of Mars later in the year. So forgive me for my lack of research there. If they're not going to make a conjunction during Mars retrograde season, then it'll be 2 years until they make a conjunction again. So yeah, we need to support our community, our spiritual community of friends and loved ones right now, and uplift them where we can through kind acts, kind words, encouraging, you know, actions that help and support, and to, where possible, not be the spiritual energy vampire in someone else's life. But yeah, heads up, that can come at us from a direction we least expect. So now we're going to do a whiz around all the signs, and I do apologize for the slowness with which I've presented this today. The cogs in my head are running very, very slowly, and I've had to stop quite a bit to catch my breath. So let's make a start. Let's pick a sign that I probably haven't chosen in ages. Let's start with Scorpio, okay? So Scorpio rising people. So for Scorpio rising people, this energy of Mars, Neptune, and the moon is falling for you in your 5th house. So I would encourage you in these 5th house realms of life to find your sense of grounding through these things, to find your sense of stability through 5th house things. So that might be doing a hobby that you particularly love, or spending time with your children where you can. It might also mean taking time out for pleasure, to enjoy life and not letting it be such a workaholic state, or, take time to find joy in life. Might be watching a movie with, your kids or something like that, or baking pizza together. Doing something for pleasure, for joy, for the fun of it. This is how you can ground yourself. Go take the kids to the park and sit in the sunshine and have a coffee or something. Enjoy life as much as possible. You guys have the best remedy for this, to enjoy life and the pleasure of life, to enjoy your children, enjoy those you love, particularly actual lovers. Enjoy a bit of sex, you guys, because yay, all this sexual energy falling in the 5th house of lovers. So have some fun. If you're in a date, if you're looking for a date and what have you, it can be very beneficial to go out and maybe jump online and have a look on Bumble or RSVP or something like that under this energy as well. So yay for Scorpio people. This is how you can actually spend time grounding yourself. If you are going on a date, make it in nature somehow, and that's also going to help you to ground yourself during this time. Okay, I am whizzing through these very, very fast because I just don't have the energy to do a very long reading today. For Sagittarius rising people, Well, this energy is falling in the 4th house, and so it's in 4th house things that you can ground yourself most effectively, and you need to focus your attention on grounding yourself there this week. And 4th house things are our families and our homes. So I don't know what the conditions in your home currently are in your country, but you might be able to invite some people over, maybe family over, and have a lunch together or something and enjoy a barbecue together. So practicing hospitality can really ground you at this time through this June the 13th energy. So do take the time to do that. Or if you don't have the energy to invite people round for a drink or a barbie or something, why not perhaps reinvigorate your home in some way? Perhaps it might be very grounding to look into feng shui or something and realign your furniture in your house. You might also enjoy being grounded by actually spending time in the garden, in nature, around your home. Pull those weeds, prune those trees, prune those roses. In Australia it's time for that, and just do some little jobs out in the earth, on the earth, to really ground yourself at this time. For Capricorn sun, rising or moon people, for you, the moon, Mars and Neptune are falling in the 3rd house. So this is the realm where you can look to ground yourself. Focus your attention on grounding yourself and being present in the moment to cope best with these energies. The 3rd house is siblings. It's small businesses that you run on your own actions. And it's also shared knowledge. So this is where you can find some balancing, some harmonizing, some grounding for yourself during June the 13th energy. And so I would encourage you at this time, maybe share your wisdom and knowledge with someone. Maybe ring up your sister or your brother and have a chat and share what you've been learning with them if they're receptive to that sort of thing. Maybe meet up with a social group or a social network that you're part of, out in the park, in nature, and grab a coffee and have a chat and share your knowledge. This can be very grounding for you at this time as well. And in your business, maybe there's a chance for you to take your business outdoors for the day. Go and do some research, again, sitting in the park or in your garden or something like that. If you run a small business, do some sort of connection with nature, even if it's just bringing in a vase of flowers to the office or something in your small business. That can be very, bringing earth into life. So the next sign we want to take a peek at is Aquarius, rising, sun or moon. And for you guys, that's a bit of a crooked arrow, isn't it? I'll make it a bit better. For you guys, this is now putting the energy of the moon, Mars and Neptune falling in your 2nd house. So this is where you'll need to focus your attention on grounding yourself. And this is in the area of values, investments and finance. Pardon me. This is also the house of nature as well. So for you guys, get out in nature, go for a walk in the forest, spend some time connecting with the earth in a real tangible way. This is the house of tangibles for Aquarius rising people, so it really behoves you to immerse yourself in some sort of natural environment as a source of grounding at this time. It's also a good time to ground yourself by acquiring something natural. So you might like to go to a nursery, a plant nursery, and acquire a pot plant or some herbs or some veggies or something like that that you can grow. So this is the house of collecting and acquiring. And one way to ground yourself during this transit is to acquire and collect some actual plants. You might also like to, buy a new wooden chopping board or something like that for your kitchen or something, acquiring something with a great deal of natural qualities to it, not highly processed, not, plastic to the nth degree, although this is in the sign of Pisces, which rules plastic. But the second house, and with the energy that we need to apply of grounding ourselves, requires you to maybe acquire something natural, or look to put your finances, maybe into something tangible right now. Maybe look at some actual grounded investments that have to do with the earth and with nature and sustainability in the environment. Now, I'm not saying this is a good time to invest at all, but that's not my bag. But this is the house of finances and investments, so you might like to do some research around your values. I really value things of quality that are naturally sourced. How can I invest my money in companies that naturally source their products and that care about the environment? So this all feeds in here. Do your research, look at where you can invest money in something that you value, particularly when it's connected to nature and the earth. Now, Pisces rising people, well, obviously this is in your first house. And depending where your rising degree is, you might feel this very, very strongly, this conjunction. So this is the house of the body. And so you need to ground your body quite literally. So I would encourage you on this day, but all the time is a good idea as well. My son in the background. Ground your body by eating fresh fruits and vegetables, and maybe on this day you could do a purge of anything, or a fast from anything that's processed, anything that's unnatural. You want to eat whole fruits and vegetables. You might like to take your body out into the sunshine. If you can, walk barefoot on the grass as well. Do whatever is good for your body, your physical body, that is connected to the earth. So that it might mean sitting out and meditating on the ground. It might mean, particularly if you're Pisces, you'll be inclined to, doing the meditation, connecting with spirit at the same time as connecting the body. Doing yoga perhaps could be a very good practice for you on this day as well. So if I'm well enough, I'm certainly hopeful that I might be able to restart my yoga practice, which I've only just got into, I might add. And that's my hope for myself, my aim, my goal for the week ahead, to get into it by the time the 13th of June rocks around. Now, for Aries rising people, oops, I'm not doing a very good job at setting up this arrow this week. For Aries rising people, this is falling in your 12th house. So it's in a 12th house realm that you will need to look to ground yourself, to centralize yourself, to connect with Gaia, the earth energy. Well, interestingly enough, that might be through tantric sex, because this is the house of bed pleasures. And so incorporating into your sexual activity, and remember, I said in the intro, you guys have Mars and Neptune. We all have Mars and Neptune causing some high states of euphoria with sexual activity. And for Aries rising people, this is going to be very strong because it's in the house of bed pleasures. And this can actually be very grounding for you. You might like to actually have some incense in the bedroom, or some, I don't know, if you like to make love to certain types of music and sound that occur, maybe some YouTube singing bowl, gong sounds or something like that. I don't know, everybody's different, but bring in some sort of grounding, present moment energy into your bed pleasures at this time, Aries people, and it's really going to help support you with this energy. You'll probably get a lot of fun out of it as well. This is also a house of creativity, of channeling higher energies and spiritual entities in general. And as I said in the intro, we do need to be careful of spiritual vampires. you guys particularly, because it's falling in your 12th house. So if your Aries rising, do be careful of energy vampires entering into your life. Guard yourself against this. Pray, do visualizations, do protective ceremonies, whatever you utilize as your spiritual practice to protect you from higher entities that would not have your best interest in mind under this combination. So tantric sex and visualization protections can be very helpful for you guys. Excuse me. So Taurus rising people, well, this is falling in your 11th house, and this is where you need to focus the energy of keeping grounded and realistic. This is the house of the returns we get for what we do. This is also the house of friendships and group activities. So it's through these avenues that you can actually best channel the energy required to ground yourself. So you might go and join a yoga group that's meeting in the park at 6 a.m. in the morning to do your yoga or your Tai Chi or something like that. Grounding yourself through maybe spiritual practices is in the sign of Pisces after all. Or grounding yourself through something that you do collectively as a group. You might join a global prayer and yoga movement, or that might be happening on the day. You could start a global prayer yoga movement that happens on the day to sort of raise vibration or something like that. You could also connect with friends that could be very grounding. So why not suggest a picnic in the park with all your friends on this day? Going out in nature, maybe a group bushwalk or something like that, or a walk through the forest, or going to the beach collectively with your friendship circle can be very grounding for you to connect with Mother Earth, with nature as a group, as a collective, and this can actually bring out the best energies of Neptune Mars Moon conjunction. So, and I'm whizzing through these because I'm not very well. Gemini rising people sees Pisces in their in their 10th house of career, legacy, worldly achievement and social status. And so it's in this realm that you're going to need to ground yourself and focus your energy on being a bit more present in the reality of life on Earth. So for you guys, it might look like connecting with an authority figure or a boss, who are also, they're the figures that are seen from this placement, in a natural environment. You might meet your boss down at the local park, get a takeaway coffee, sit there and discuss some work situation. That can be actually very grounding in this realm of life for you to do so, to be in nature with an authority figure or a boss, or even a father figure, father mentor kind of person as well. You might also be able to take your work, what you do for a career, outdoors into the environment. If you've got a laptop, it's a beautiful day, you might be able to go out and type on a park bench in the sunshine or something like that and do your work outside. You might find that it's very grounding for you during your lunch break at work to sort of go for a walk through whatever local park is nearby to your workplace as well, and just connect with the earth in some way. Bring in a bunch of flowers to your workplace, to wherever you focus your energy for career. Bring in a bunch of flowers, or bring in a big bowl of fruit or something for morning tea, and make it natural and pure, that you just share the earth and her bounty and her beauty with others at work, and this can be very grounding as well. If you are creating a legacy, be that as the CEO of a company, or you're creating a legacy of wonderful artworks, or anything in between, whatever the legacy you're creating looks like, maybe on this day you could try and bring in some sort of natural element to it. If you're the CEO of a company, maybe you might like to look at, well, how are we working with the environment here, and how can we change, and how can we better things? That's a very grounded approach. If you are, creating, a suite of artworks, it's going to be the legacy that you leave to the world when you're gone. well, why not do a painting that involves nature or something? Or if you're writing songs, use the sounds of the birds or the wind in the trees in your song or something like that. Bring nature into your work on this day, and you will do much to ground yourself in the sphere of career, social status, worldly achievement, and it can actually bring you a lot of blessing and help the keep at bay, shall we say, the more negative energies that I spoke of in the intro. If you are a Cancer rising person or sun or moon, then this energy is falling in the 9th house for you. This is the house of belief, of intellectual growth, and of travel. And so it's here that you can seek to ground yourself if you get the chance to travel. Not that that's really on the cards much for anyone at the moment, but travel to somewhere natural and immerse yourself perhaps in some way in some sort of natural tribal culture. You know, you don't even have to travel to actually do that. You know, you can just jump online and do some internet travel and check out other tribal cultures that really knew how to earth themselves and connect to the land and work with Gaia, Mother Earth. This is really very, very important under this energy, that we keep things grounded and realistic, that we are present and mindful of our life here in the 3rd dimension on planet Earth. So look at, research some cultures in that regard. Do some intellectual studies that might have to do with nature. You might like to look up the biology of the African water buffalo or something. Anything. Watch a David Attenborough documentary to expand your mind and grow your mind about the natural world, about the earth. Watch a documentary about the spirit of Gaia herself. Get in touch with the energy of the earth through your intellect, through your mind, through your understanding. In doing so, you might just find that your beliefs broaden and your understanding about ancient beliefs and how they affect our life here on earth now as well. You might like to jump into sort of something like Epicureanism, which was very focused on the natural world and the atomic world, actually. He was ahead of his time, really. And check out the works of Epicurus, who was quite, he developed a school in ancient Greece called the Garden, and very focused on the pleasures, not the decadent hedonistic pleasures, but just the general life pleasures to be had through the enjoyment of the natural world. So check out the works of Epicurus, which is very much the nature of this energy in the 9th house, and a great way to ground yourself at this time. Excuse me. We've got Leo rising, sun or moon as well. And if this is one of your placements, then the way you can ground yourself and where you should focus your energy on grounding yourself this week, especially on the 13th of June, is here in the 8th house for you. This is a house of intimacy, psychological understandings, and community resources. So it's in these realms that you should seek to be grounded and to bring earth energy into what you're experiencing. Obviously, in the realm of intimacy, this could be quite delightful. If you listen to the intro and I spoke about Mars conjunct with Neptune, lucky Leos, you're going to have a great week if you have the opportunity to do so. So I'd encourage you in your intimacy to bring earth energy into what you're doing. How do we do that? Well, if you want to go make love outdoors in the bush or the forest, go for it. Perfect. But if it's freezing cold and you're in Australia, then what you can do is perhaps bring some sounds of nature into your lovemaking. For example, you might put on a YouTube video of bird sounds or of a flowing river or something in the background while you have a bit of fun. So you can bring that earth energy into the realm of intimacy for you. It can be very, earthing to have, I'll show you, to have some of these sorts of things, crystals and rocks and what have you in the bedroom. A bit of amethyst by the bed or something can be actually very beneficial. That's not amethyst, by the way, I do know that. By the bed to, just sort of give the energy of earthing to what you're doing. In fact, if you're really into this sort of thing, you can place gemstones or crystals on the chakra points as part of your lovemaking or foreplay or whatever. So there's a bit of fun there as well. You can earth yourself in the sexual act, and then there's all sorts of tantric practices as well that you can utilize. So that's one way that you can ground yourself under this energy, which could be a lot of fun. As I said, lucky Leos. Psychological understandings is another place that you might like to focus the energy of grounding yourself, and that could mean exploring the depths of your psychological state while being outdoors in nature. Take your journal, grab a coffee, go to a park bench, go out to the forest, sit by a river and do some introspective work, because this is the house of deep introspection, shining a light on our psyche. So I'd encourage you jump into that sort of thing in a natural environment. Again, if you can't get into a natural environment, maybe buy a bunch of flowers, sit it on your desk while you do that, or eat some apples or something like that while you are writing in your journal, or put on those bird sounds or that river video again as a part of what you're doing when you are going into the psychological self through introspection, through therapy work, through any type of work that asks us to go within. It can also be the house of past life regression work. So while that is a very ethereal activity, you can also make a grounded energy in that. Again, if you were to utilize crystals to sort of ground you while you did that work. So a few different ideas there for how Leo can work with this energy to ground themselves this week and keep things at their most blessed. Virgo rising people, or sun or moon. For you lovely friends, this is falling in the 7th house. So it's 7th house realms that you can focus, or you'll need to focus the energy of grounding on this week. 7th house is collaborations, diplomacy, relationships. Now, I gave an illustration in the intro to this video of how I needed to reach out to partners in my life for support this week, and you may find the same thing. It's in partnerships, maybe your marriage or a business collaboration or connection with your audience in some way or your clients in some way. Any type of contractual relationships you have with someone, essentially, that you can ground yourself. So it might mean meeting with a client out in the park. It might mean going for a walk with your partner, with your marriage partner, after work by the lake or something. These are ways to ground yourself, but it's in collaborative endeavors that you'll need to ground yourself this week as a way to embrace the potential of this energy of Neptune, Mars and Moon. So I'd encourage you on June the 13th to do so, connect in some way, in a natural way. And if you can't get outdoors, if it's a yucky day, wherever you are in the world, well, bring nature to you. Maybe a beautiful bunch of flowers like jonquils or roses or something that, you sit at the dinner table with when you're having dinner with your marriage partner, or you buy some vegetables that you're going to plant in the garden together on the weekend. You go shopping for some veggies or a tree or something like that. Or maybe you actually just decide you're going to eat together very grounded fruit, like not actually literally ground down, but earth-based fruits and vegetables together on this day with your partner. So you cook a meal together with your partner. Mars is to chop things up, chop up and make a vegetable stir fry or something like that, or do grounded work. You use root vegetables, use carrots and things that come out of the earth to help ground you if you can't get outdoors and actually be present in and on the earth We are all on the earth, I know. But with your partner, if you can't actually get into nature on this day, look instead to how can I bring nature into our life today somehow as a couple. All right, so Libra. Well, you guys waited till last. Thank you, Libra. Really appreciate it. And yeah. For you, this placement falls in the 6th house. And this is where you may need to focus the energy of grounding this week. You might need this in order to cope with enemies, in order to cope with critics, and in order to cope with any imbalances that are in your life, essentially, because that's what the 6th house represents. So this energy all melding together of the moon, Neptune and Mars in your 6th house tells us that you're going to need to ground yourself in some very practical way to cope with what could trigger. Now, you guys and Aries rising people, you're the ones who need to be careful of the spiritual entities or energy vampires that are in the actual earth that we deal with, sort of making life hard. Because for Aries rising people, as I spoke about, this energy is falling in their 12th house of hidden enemies. For you guys, it's falling in the house of open enemies, people you know about. So you might actually get a spiritual attack, or you might actually get some sort of like I said, an energy vampire, like I described in the intro, that affects your life in some way. Now, if that's the case, I want to tell you these grounding exercises that I'm talking about, they're going to help you deal with this, okay? And of course, this has to do with diet and exercise. So for Libra rising people, a daily walk in the next week through the forest, through the bush, through a park, getting out in nature, very important. Taking a bike ride, doing some sort of exercise activity out in the environment, not in the gym this week. If you can manage it, get out in nature. Maybe a swim in the ocean if the weather's fine and you can do that, or in an outdoor salt pool or something like that. Get out in nature. You know, we have a lot of, on the coast in Australia, a lot of beautiful saltwater pools that are actually a part of the ocean. So, you know, that sort of thing's great. And of course, moon rules waves. Pisces is the ocean. So that could be really doubly beneficial. You're connecting with Earth, with Gaia. You're connecting with the ocean. If you've got the chance to do this, you're doing your exercise, 6th house, it could really alleviate and ground you so that the energies of energy vampires don't actually present in such a strong manner. But also, you know, it could be eating really whole foods, you know, no processed foods, eating only healthy foods, fruits and vegetables and juices, and, you know, make your own. On this, particularly on the 13th of June, make your own fruits and, oh, don't make your own fruits and vegetables, but, you know, juices and stews and curries and things like that. Soups and things like that. So focus your energy on your diet and keeping it grounded and whole, and, you know, tapping into the earth's bounty through what you're eating. And of course, as I said, exercising and spending time in nature, very important. As part of your routine, I would say, for the next 2 weeks during this eclipse gateway period as well. So that is just how I perceive the week ahead and how we can navigate it with more wisdom. Hopefully this has been a blessing to you. Thank you for sticking with me. I know I've been slow. I know my voice has been very quiet and soft. But as I said, I am dealing with a pretty horrible illness right now. So let's close with prayer. Energy of love, we just lift up all women and children who are suffering on planet Earth right now. We lift up anyone who's actually a victim of injustice as well. We ask for those in power to see ways to make change, the necessary change that needs to happen. And we ask for wisdom for everybody as we navigate these times. While Venus is invisible, may we seek love and to raise the energy of love on the planet. And we do just pray that Venus's visibility will arrive on the 13th, because goodness knows we need love, we need forgiveness, we need the energies of beautiful Venus present on planet Earth right now, or visible to planet Earth right now more than ever. And so we ask for this. We ask for your blessing upon all of us, particularly women in pioneering roles, as is the case with Lucifer, Venus, retrograde. Any woman who's in a role of pioneering and change and influence. May those women be blessed as they stand up. May they be supported as they make the changes necessary on planet Earth. And we just ask for leadership for all of us from the right places at this very difficult time in human history. And so it is. Well, thank you for joining me. Thanks for putting up with my clunky head. And I look forward to having another Astro Weather Report for you next week.